I was demolishing my childhood home when I found a 1983 newspaper clipping that proved my entire life was a lie. The headline read, "Local businessman's wife and child disappear." The child's name was mine. But the businessman wasn't the man I'd called Dad for 43 years. My name is Colton Fairbanks, and 3 months ago I thought I knew exactly who I was. I was a 43-year-old auto shop owner from Duluth, Minnesota, with grease permanently embedded under my fingernails and a bankruptcy notice burning a hole in my kitchen drawer. My wife, Melinda, had just taken our kids to France with her boss, and I was selling everything I owned just to stay afloat. But that newspaper clipping changed everything. It introduced me to Randolph Merrick, the biological father I never knew existed, a man worth $240 million who'd spent 4 decades searching for the son he thought was kidnapped. It revealed that my mother Dorothy wasn't Dorothy at all, but Gwendolyn Merrick, a woman who'd staged her own disappearance to protect me from something even she couldn't have fully understood. The morning I found that clipping started like any other day of packing up my dead mother's house. October in Duluth was already bringing frost, and the old colonial's heating had been shut off to save money. My breath formed small clouds as I climbed the narrow stairs to the attic, carrying empty boxes and garbage bags. The realtor wanted everything cleared out within 2 weeks. The market was hot, she said. I could get $280,000 for the place, maybe more if we staged it right. $280,000. That was supposed to be my fresh start, my fighting fund to get my kids back. Ruby, my 12-year-old artist who left her drawings under my pillow before they left. Jasper, 10 years old and obsessed with fixing things just like his dad. They were living in Lyon now with Philippe Dumont, the French executive who'd been my wife's boss, and apparently something more for who knows how long. "Dad, are you going to visit us soon?" Ruby had asked during our last video call, her face pixelated and freezing every few seconds thanks to the weak Wi-Fi in Philippe's apartment. "I'm working on it, sweetheart," I'd told her, not mentioning that international custody lawyers wanted $50,000 just to review the case. The attic was exactly as Mom had left it before the cancer took her 6 months ago. Boxes stacked against every wall, labeled in her careful handwriting. Colton's school years, Christmas decorations, Walter's tools. Walter Fairbanks, the man I'd called Dad, had been dead for 18 years. A plumber who'd never missed my Little League games, who taught me that honest work was the best kind of work, who died of a heart attack while fixing Mrs. Henderson's kitchen sink. I was pulling up boxes when my foot went through a loose floorboard, the same one I'd hidden baseball cards under when I was 8. But when I reached down to check the damage, my fingers found something else. An envelope, brown with age, tucked between the joists. No label, no explanation, just Mom's distinctive way of sealing things with too much tape, like she was protecting nuclear secrets. Inside was a photograph and a newspaper clipping from the Minneapolis Tribune, dated October 15, 1983. The photo showed a woman who looked exactly like my mother, just younger, holding a toddler. The headline made my knees buckle. "Prominent businessman's family vanishes." The article was short but devastating. Randolph Merrick, owner of Merrick Development Group, had reported his wife Gwendolyn and 2-year-old son Colton missing. Police suspected kidnapping. A $100,000 reward was offered. There were quotes from Randolph about his desperation, his certainty that someone had taken them, his promise to never stop searching. I read my own name 3 times before it sank in. Colton. Not a common name. The same birthday listed in the article, May 3, 1981. The woman in the photo who could have been my mother's twin. Except she was my mother. Under the newspaper clipping was a birth certificate. Colton James Merrick. Parents, Randolph Winston Merrick and Gwendolyn Rose Merrick. The seal of Hennepin County, Minnesota. Official. Real. Proof that everything I thought I knew about myself was built on a foundation of lies. My mother hadn't been Dorothy Fairbanks from Canada who'd moved to Duluth and met a sweet plumber named Walter. She'd been Gwendolyn Merrick, wife of a businessman, mother of his child. and she'd run. She'd taken me and disappeared so completely that even a $100,000 reward couldn't find us. The man I was about to discover, the one whose name was on my real birth certificate, had spent 40 years believing I'd been stolen from him. He was about to learn the truth, and so was I. I never thought I'd be back in this house. The two-story colonial on Maple Street had been my entire world once, but now it felt like a museum of someone else's life. 6 months after Mom's funeral, I was finally facing the task I'd been avoiding. Every room held a ghost. Every corner whispered a memory I wasn't ready to hear. The dining room where we'd celebrated every Thanksgiving, Mom insisting on cooking enough food for 20 even when it was just the three of us. The kitchen where Walter taught me to fix a leaky faucet when I was 7, his massive hands guiding my small ones. "Everything can be fixed, Colton," he'd said. "You just need patience and the right tools." But some things couldn't be fixed. Not Mom's cancer that took her in 3 months. Not my marriage that had been dying for years. Not the sight of my kids waving goodbye at the airport. Not knowing when they'd see their dad again. Melinda had played it perfectly. She'd been taking French lessons for 2 years, told me it was for her job at the import company. Philippe Dumont had been just a name on her phone screen, her boss who needed things at odd hours. I was too busy keeping the auto shop running to notice the signs. The new clothes, she said, were for company presentations. The weekend business trips that seemed to energize her instead of exhausting her. The way she stopped asking about my day and started criticizing how I smelled like motor oil. "The kids deserve better than this," she'd said that final morning, gesturing around our modest rambler like it was condemned. "This is their home," I'd argued. "Not anymore. Philippe has offered me a position in the Lyon office. The kids will love France, better schools, culture, opportunities. You can't just take them." But she could, and she did. International custody law is a maze that requires guides who charge $1,000 just to explain why you're probably going to lose. My lawyer, a tired man named Benson who worked out of a strip mall, had been honest. "Without significant funds, Mr. Fairbanks, your options are limited. She's their mother, she has a stable job overseas, and French courts favor keeping children with the primary caregiver. I'm their father, who owns a failing auto shop and just filed for bankruptcy. I'm sorry, but that's how they'll see it." The shop had been my dream once. Fairbanks Auto Repair, specializing in classic cars. I'd bought it with the life insurance money from Walter's death, thinking I was honoring him by working with my hands. But classic car owners disappeared when the economy tanked. I'd switched to regular repairs, competing with chain shops that could undercut my prices. The final blow was a customer who sued over a transmission job, claiming I'd damaged his engine. Insurance covered the settlement, but dropped my coverage. No insurance meant no business. So here I was, sorting through 43 years of accumulation, deciding what to keep and what to let go. The realtor, Brenda Holloway, had walked through the house with her tablet, calculating square footage and market value like she was measuring a corpse. "Original hardwood floors, that's good. Kitchen needs updating, but buyers expect that. You'll want to clear out all the personal items, of course. Depersonalize. Help buyers imagine their own lives here." But how do you depersonalize a life? How do you pack away the pencil marks on the doorframe that tracked your height from age 4 to 18? How do you erase the smell of your mother's lavender soap from the bathroom, or your father's Old Spice from the basement workshop? Dennis, my cousin and only help, had arrived 3 days into the packing. He was Walter's nephew technically, but family was family. He'd brought beer and complaints in equal measure. "This place always creeped me out as a kid," he said, looking around the attic. "Your mom kept everything so perfect, like she was afraid of leaving a trace." Now I understood why. Dorothy Fairbanks had been living a carefully constructed lie, every item curated to support the fiction. No photos from before 1984, no references to life before Duluth. She'd told me her parents died young, that she had no siblings except for Aunt Nadine in Arizona, who we visited exactly twice in my entire childhood. I thought about Ruby and Jasper waking up in Felipe's apartment in Lyon. Did they wonder why Dad hadn't fought harder? Did they think I'd chosen the shop over them? Melinda had probably told them I was too busy working to visit, the same lie she'd been laying groundwork for years. "Kids need stability," she'd said in one of her final arguments. "You're married to that garage." But I'd been married to the idea of providing for them, of building something they could be proud of. Now I had neither the business nor the family. Just this house full of secrets, and a future as empty as the boxes I was supposed to be filling. Day 3 of clearing the attic was when everything changed. The October cold had settled into the bones of the house, making the old wood creak with every step. Dennis was downstairs, supposedly packing the kitchen but probably drinking his way through the beer he'd brought. I was alone with decades of accumulated life, trying to decide what was worth saving. The attic had always been Mom's domain. Even as a kid, I needed permission to come up here. She kept it organized with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Christmas decorations in one corner, labeled by year. Tax documents in filing boxes, going back to 1984. Nothing earlier, I noticed now. Nothing from before her life as Dorothy Fairbanks began. I was moving a stack of National Geographic magazines when my foot went through that loose floorboard. The same hiding spot where 8-year-old me had stashed baseball cards and candy stolen from the kitchen. But when I knelt down to check the damage, my fingers found something that shouldn't have been there. An envelope, brown with age, sealed with enough tape to survive a hurricane. "Hey, Colton, you want these old dishes or not?" Dennis called from below. "Whatever, just box them," I called back. My attention fixed on the envelope. Inside was a newspaper clipping, brittle as dried leaves. Minneapolis Tribune, October 15th, 1983. The headline hit me like a physical blow. "Prominent businessman's family vanishes." The black and white photo showed a woman holding a toddler. The woman looked exactly like my mother, just 20 years younger. The child could have been any 2-year-old, but the caption removed all doubt. "Gwendolyn Merrick and son Colton missing since October 12th. My hands shook as I read the article. Randolph Merrick, owner of Emerick Development Group, had come home from a business trip to find his wife and son gone. No note, no warning, no signs of struggle, just absence. Police suspected kidnapping. Merrick offered a $100,000 reward, desperate for any information. "This can't be right," I said to the empty attic. But underneath the clipping was more proof. A birth certificate with an official seal. Colton James Merrick, born May 3rd, 1981, Hennepin County, Minnesota. Parents, Randolph Winston Merrick and Gwendolyn Rose Merrick. My birth certificate, the one I'd used my whole life, said Colton James Fairbanks, born May 3rd, 1981, in Toronto, Canada. Parents, Walter and Dorothy Fairbanks. One of them was a lie, and I knew which one. "Dennis," I called, my voice cracking, "get up here." He climbed the stairs with the reluctance of a man who knew he was about to be asked to move something heavy. But when he saw my face, he stopped complaining. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I handed him the clipping. Watched his eyes go wide as he read, then looked at the photo, then at me. "This is insane. This woman looks just like Aunt Dorothy. Because it is her, that's my mother, and that's me. But that would mean Walter wasn't your father." The words hung in the air like an accusation. Walter Fairbanks, the man who taught me to fish, who cheered at every Little League game, who worked overtime to pay for my college, he wasn't my father. He was someone my mother had found to play the part. "There has to be an explanation," Dennis said. "Your mom wouldn't just kidnap you from your real father." But what other explanation was there? The dates lined up, the names matched. My mother had been Gwendolyn Merrick, married to a wealthy businessman. Then something happened on October 12th, 1983, that made her run. She took me, changed our names, and built a new life 3 hours north in Duluth. I dug deeper into the box where I'd found the envelope. There were more documents. A social insurance card for Dorothy Fairbanks issued in 1984. A driver's license from the same year. Marriage certificate to Walter Fairbanks, dated June 1985. All the building blocks of a false identity. "Your mom never talked about her past," Dennis said slowly. "I remember my dad mentioning it once, how Walter met her at some church function and fell head over heels. Said she was mysterious, that nobody knew where she came from. She came from Minneapolis, from money, by the looks of it. Merrick Development Group. I've heard that name." Dennis pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Holy hell, Colton. Randolph Merrick is worth $240 million. His company built half of Minneapolis. He's your father." "My father?" A stranger whose name I'd just learned. A man who'd spent 40 years thinking his son was kidnapped. While I was learning to ride a bike in Duluth, he was, what? Searching? Grieving? Moving on? "You have to contact him," Dennis said. "And say what?" "Hi, I'm the son you lost in 1983. My mom actually kidnapped me, surprise." But even as I protested, I knew I would. Because somewhere out there was a man who might have answers. Why did my mother run? What was she afraid of? And what did this mean for my own children, now an ocean away, being raised by another man while their real father was helpless to stop it? The parallel was too sharp to ignore. History repeating itself in the cruelest way possible. 3 days of research consumed me completely. I moved my laptop to the attic, surrounded by boxes of evidence of my mother's carefully constructed lie. Dennis had gone home, but not before making me promise to eat something besides coffee and stale crackers. The internet became my obsession, every search revealing another piece of Randolph Merrick's life. The man was a legend in Minneapolis real estate. Started with a single apartment building in 1978, leveraged it into 2, then 4, then an empire. By the time his family disappeared in 1983, he owned 30 properties. Now, at 76, Merrick Development Group had built luxury towers, shopping centers, and office complexes across the Midwest. His face stared back at me from Forbes articles and charity gala photos. Silver hair, sharp jawline, eyes that looked disturbingly like mine. Self-made billionaire Randolph Merrick donates $10 million to Children's Hospital. That headline was from last year. The article mentioned he'd never remarried after losing his family in 1983. Never had other children. The reporter asked why he focused so much on children's charities. His answer made my chest tight. Every child deserves to be found. He'd never stopped looking for me. I picked up my phone 17 times before finally calling Aunt Nadine in Phoenix. She answered on the third ring, her voice warm with the Arizona sunshine I could never understand her loving. "Colton, how's the house cleaning going?" "Nadine, I need you to tell me the truth about Mom." Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, calculating. "What truth, honey?" "I found the newspaper clipping. I know she was Gwendolyn Merrick. I know she took me from my father in 1983. The silence was longer this time. When she finally spoke, her voice had aged 10 years. "She made me promise never to tell you. She's gone, Nadine, and I'm about to lose my kids to France because I can't afford to fight for them. I need to know who I really am." I heard her sink into a chair, the squeak of old springs. It was October 1983. I was living in Tucson then, working nights at the hospital, 3 in the morning. Someone's pounding on my door. I thought someone had died, but it was Dorothy. Gwen, she was Gwen then, holding you, both of you soaking wet from rain. What did she say? She was terrified, Colton, shaking like I'd never seen. She had bruises on her arms, her neck. You were crying, clinging to her. She said she had to disappear, that you weren't safe, that she needed my help. Was it Randolph? Did he hurt her? She wouldn't say his name, just kept saying, "He'll find us. He'll never stop looking." I wanted to call the police, but she begged me not to, said the police couldn't protect her from him. My image of Randolph Merrick shifted, darkened. The philanthropist became a potential monster. So you helped her disappear? I had a friend who worked in government services, owed me a favor. We created Dorothy Fairbanks, a cousin from Canada who needed a fresh start. Your mom cut and dyed her hair, learned to speak differently. She was brilliant at becoming someone else, like she'd been preparing for it her whole life. And Walter? Walter was a gift from God. He'd just moved to Duluth from Wisconsin, didn't know anyone. Met your mom at a church potluck 6 months after she arrived. He fell in love instantly. She told him the truth before they married, said she understood if he wanted to walk away. But he didn't. He said he didn't care what name she used, as long as she let him love her and you. He was a good man, Colton. He was your real father in every way that mattered. I know. My throat felt thick. But I need to meet Randolph. Honey, no. Your mother ran for a reason. My kids are gone, Nadine. Their mother took them to another country with another man. I can't fight for them because I don't have money. But Randolph Merrick has money. He has power. Maybe he'll help me. Maybe blood means something after 40 years. Or maybe you'll find out why your mother was so scared. After the call, I sat staring at Randolph's corporate website. There was a contact number, an email. It would be so easy to reach out. But what would I say? I drafted 20 emails, deleted them all. Finally, I picked up the phone and called the main number. Merrick Development Group, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with Mr. Merrick. It's about a personal matter. Mr. Merrick doesn't take unsolicited personal calls. Would you like to speak with his assistant? Tell him it's about October 12th, 1983. Tell him Colton is calling. The receptionist paused. 1 moment, please. The hold music was classical, expensive sounding. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was insane. I should hang up. I should forget everything and just accept my life as it was. Then a voice, deep and controlled, but with an undertone of something raw. This is Randolph Merrick. Is this really you? My name is Colton. I was born May 3rd, 1981. My mother was Gwendolyn. A sharp intake of breath. Then barely a whisper. My God. After all these years, where are you? Are you safe? Is your mother? She died 6 months ago. Cancer. I just found out the truth. We need to meet. Yes, absolutely. Can you come today? Now? I'll send a car, a plane, whatever you need. The desperation in his voice was real. 4 decades of searching compressed into a single plea. I can drive to Minneapolis. Give me 3 hours. I'll be waiting. I never stopped looking for you, Colton. Never. The Merrick Development Group building pierced the Minneapolis skyline like a glass and steel declaration of success. 42 floors of ambition, with Randolph Merrick's office occupying the entire top level. The elevator ride felt like ascending to judgment. Each floor, counting up to a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. His assistant, a composed woman named Margaret, met me at the elevator. Mr. Fairbanks, Mr. Merrick is waiting in his private office. She didn't correct herself when I didn't dispute the name. We walked through a reception area that could have swallowed my entire house, past conference rooms with views that stretched to the horizon. Everything whispered money, power, permanence. Everything my mother had run from. The doors to his office opened, and there he was. Randolph Merrick, 76 years old, standing behind a massive oak desk. He was thinner than his photos suggested, his suit hanging loose on a frame that had once been powerful. But his eyes were sharp, alive, and when they met mine, they filled with tears. "My God," he whispered, "you look just like her, like Gwen." We stood frozen, 40 years of separation crystallizing in the space between us. Then he moved around the desk, his steps uncertain, like he was afraid I might disappear if he moved too fast. "Please, sit. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? I don't know what you drink. I don't know anything about you." The pain in that admission was raw. I sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than my truck, while he took the one across from me, not the power position behind his desk. He wanted to be close, to see me, to confirm I was real. "Before you say anything," I started, "I need you to know I just found out. My mother, she died 6 months ago. I was cleaning out her house and found the newspaper clipping about your family disappearing. About us disappearing." His hands trembled as he reached for a folder on the side table. "I hired 12 private investigators over 40 years, spent over $3 million. Every lead went nowhere. It's like you both became ghosts. We became different people. Dorothy and Colton Fairbanks. She married a plumber named Walter when I was 4. He raised me. I thought he was my father until 3 days ago. A plumber." He said it without judgment, just processing. "Was she happy? Were you safe?" "Yes, we had a good life. Simple, but good." "Then why?" The question came out broken. Why did she run? What did I do that was so terrible she had to erase us from existence? I watched his face carefully. "You really don't know?" "I've tortured myself with that question for 40 years. We had arguments, sure. I worked too much, traveled constantly. But I loved her. I loved both of you. I would never have hurt either of you." He pushed the folder across to me. 15 years ago, I hired a different kind of investigator, not to find you, but to understand why you left. This is what he found." I opened the folder. Police reports from Chicago, dated 1979. A woman named Carolyn Marsh filing a restraining order against Vincent Cray. Photos of bruises on her arms. Hospital records. "Vincent Cray was my business partner," Randolph continued, his voice steady but cold. "He ran the financial side while I handled development. I trusted him completely. Too completely. More documents, complaints from female employees about inappropriate behavior. All settled quietly, papers signed, silence bought. The investigator found a pattern. Vincent had an obsession with women connected to his business partners. It was about power, control, taking what belonged to someone else." Randolph's jaw clenched. "Your mother was beautiful, kind. Everything Vincent wasn't. When she rejected his advances, he escalated. She tried to tell you?" "She tried." The admission broke something in him. She said Vincent made her uncomfortable, that he showed up when I was gone, that he watched her. I told her Vincent was just socially awkward, harmless. I was building an empire and couldn't see the monster in my own office. A new document, a police report from October 11th, 1983, the day before my mother ran. "She called the police that night," Randolph said. "Vincent had come to the house while I was in Tokyo. He tried to force his way in. She locked herself and you in the bathroom. When the police arrived, Vincent was gone. He had connections, made it disappear from the official record. But my investigator found the responding officer's personal notes. She thought you were part of it? Or that I couldn't protect her. That even with all my money and power, Vincent would find a way. So she ran where no amount of money could follow. She became someone else entirely. Where's Vincent now? Dead, car accident in 1992. He never knew I discovered the truth. Never paid for what he stole from us." The office felt smaller suddenly. 40 years of loss compressed into one room. This man hadn't been the monster my mother fled from. He'd been another victim, left behind to wonder what he'd done wrong. "Your mother was brave," he said finally. "Braver than I ever was. She gave up everything to keep you safe. She never stopped looking over her shoulder. Now I understand why." Randolph leaned forward. "Colton, I know I can't make up for 40 years, but you're here now. You're my son, my only family. And from what Margaret tells me, you need help with your own children?" 6 months later, I stood in a different courtroom, this time in Paris. The French tribunal was nothing like the cramped family court in Minnesota where my divorce had been finalized. This was all marble and history, justice wrapped in European formality. But I wasn't alone this time. Randolph sat in the gallery, his presence commanding attention even in silence. His legal team, 5 lawyers from 3 different countries, had built a case that was bulletproof. Melinda looked smaller than I remembered, sitting next to Philippe, who kept tugging at his collar like it was choking him. Turns out Philippe Dumont wasn't the successful executive he'd pretended to be. Randolph's investigators had uncovered fraud charges in Belgium, tax evasion in Switzerland, and a string of broken marriages across Europe. The man who'd stolen my family was nothing but a well-dressed con artist. "Papa," Ruby's voice echoed through the courthouse when the judge granted me full custody. She broke free from the social worker and ran to me, her arms wrapping around my waist. Jasper followed, trying to look tough at 10 years old, but failing when tears started rolling down his cheeks. "We missed you so much," he whispered into my shoulder. "Philippe was mean," Ruby added, her voice muffled against my shirt. "He yelled at Mom all the time. She cried every night." I looked over at Melinda, who was staring at the floor. She'd gambled everything on a fantasy and lost it all. Philippe was already walking away, leaving her alone in a foreign country with nothing. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction, but all I felt was sad for the woman who'd once been my wife, who'd chosen escape over repair. The flight home was surreal. Randolph had insisted on the company jet, saying his grandchildren deserved comfort after what they'd been through. Ruby and Jasper explored the plane with wonder, unable to believe this was their grandfather, this man with a private plane and buildings with his name on them. "Grandpa Randolph," Ruby said, testing the words. "That sounds weird. We already had a Grandpa Walter." "You did," Randolph replied gently. "And from what your father tells me, he was a wonderful grandfather. I'm not trying to replace him. I'm just hoping you'll let me love you too." Back in Minneapolis, life took on a shape I never could have imagined. Randolph had bought a house 3 blocks from his penthouse, a colonial that reminded me of the one in Duluth, but with touches I never could have afforded. "It's yours," he said simply. "Close enough for Sunday dinners, far enough that you have your own life." I went back to work, but not at a failing garage. Randolph had offered to simply give me money to set me up for life. I'd refused. "I need to earn my way," I told him. "That's what Walter taught me." "That's exactly what Gwen would have said," he replied, and I saw pride in his eyes. Instead, he helped me buy a chain of luxury auto shops, specializing in high-end restorations. Turns out there was money in classic cars after all if you knew the right clientele. Randolph's connections didn't hurt. Within 3 months I had more business than I could handle. The house in Duluth remained unsold. I couldn't bring myself to let it go, not after understanding what it represented. It was my mother's sanctuary, the place she'd felt safe enough to raise me. Some weekends I drove up alone, sat in the attic where everything had changed. I'd found more documents hidden throughout the house, love letters from Walter to Dorothy, promising to protect her secret forever. Photos of birthday parties and Christmas mornings, a family built on a beautiful lie that became a truth. Ruby had started painting again, setting up an easel in Randolph's office where she could watch the city while creating. Her latest project was a portrait of the whole family, me, her, Jasper, and Grandpa Randolph. But in the background she'd painted shadows of 2 other figures. "Who are those?" I asked. "Grandpa Walter and Grandma Dorothy," she said matter-of-factly. "They're still part of our family, even if they're gone. Just like how you were part of Grandpa Randolph's family, even when you were gone. Kids understand things adults make complicated." Randolph and I spent Tuesday evenings together, just the 2 of us. He told me about the years of searching, the false leads, the nights he'd stood in what had been my nursery, wondering if I was alive. I told him about growing up in Duluth, about Walter teaching me to fish, about Mom's lavender garden and her fear of unexpected knocks at the door. "She never stopped being afraid," I said one evening. Even 20 years after Vincent died, she was always watching, always ready to run again. She didn't know he was dead. She probably thought he was still out there, waiting. You could have protected her. Could I? I had all the money and power in the world, and I couldn't see the danger right in front of me. She protected herself. She protected you. She did what I failed to do. The newspaper clipping that started everything now sat framed in my home office, next to a photo of my mother and Walter on their wedding day, and another of Randolph and Gwendolyn before I was born. All these pieces of a fractured history, finally fitting together. My mother had made an impossible choice, giving up wealth and comfort for safety and peace. She'd found love again with a simple plumber who asked no questions and gave everything. She'd raised me in a small Minnesota town where the biggest danger was icy roads in winter. Randolph had made his own journey, from abandoned husband to searching father to successful grandfather. His money had brought my children home, but it was his patience and genuine love that made them call him Grandpa. And me? I'd learned that family isn't just about blood or birth certificates. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you. Walter was my father. Randolph is my father. Both truths exist simultaneously, like my mother being both Dorothy and Gwendolyn, both the kidnapper and the protector. Sometimes the truth isn't simple. Sometimes love requires running. Sometimes it requires searching. And sometimes, 40 years later, it requires forgiveness for choices made in fear, for dangers unseen, for lives that could have been different. My children are home. They have a grandfather who adores them, a father who fought an ocean to get them back, and stories of grandparents they'll never meet but who shaped everything. They have the truth, complicated and messy and real. That's all any of us can give our children. The truth, eventually, when they're ready to hear it. And the promise that no matter how far they drift, someone will always be searching for them, waiting for them to come home. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that family can take many forms, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your comments mean everything, whether you've faced your own family mysteries or simply believe in the power of truth and reconciliation. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the complex, beautiful, and sometimes painful reality of what it means to be a family. Thank you for listening to Colton's Journey. Until next time, remember that it's never too late for the truth to bring you home.